If I put this wig in my head, it's over. If I put this wig in my head, it's over. If I put this wig in my head, it's over. But you gonna be mad, okay?
I was all in her guts. I know from the way she screamed at me.
A single Facebook friend request, a heated argument, a warning shot, then a fatal bullet. In Jackson, Mississippi on February 23, 2025, what began as a disagreement over social media ended with 33-year-old Damian Reed lying dead on the floor of his own home, shot by his wife, Rashawn Wallace. The sequence seems impossible, unbelievable even. How does a conversation about online activity escalate to lethal violence in a matter of minutes? What pushes a licensed practical nurse to pull the trigger, not once, but twice, on the man she shares a home with? And what role did digital privacy and control play in creating the perfect storm of tension that erupted that morning? These questions pull us into a story that goes far beyond a simple headline. This isn't just about a shooting, it's about the invisible boundaries in relationships, the explosive potential of jealousy, and the deadly serious consequences when trust disintegrates. At 11:30 a.m. on that February morning, the residents of Brook Hollow Drive in Jackson were going about their normal Sunday routines. Inside one particular home, however, an argument was reaching its breaking point. Damian Reed had discovered something on his wife's Facebook account, a friend request that, to him, represented a betrayal. To Rashawn Wallace, it represented something else entirely, her husband's need for control. What happened in those critical moments would forever alter both their lives, leaving one dead and the other facing murder charges and claiming self-defense. But who were these people before they became statistics in a true crime case? Damian Reed, 33, was more than just a victim. Friends described him as ambitious, yet quick-tempered. His relationships were marked by intensity, both in affection and in conflict. Those who knew him speak of a complex man whose jealousy could transform him in an instant. Rashawn Wallace, 30, built her identity around helping others as a licensed practical nurse. She was known for her calm demeanor in crisis situations, a trait that makes the events of February 23rd all the more shocking. How did a healthcare professional trained to save lives end up taking one? Most disturbing of all, a child was present in the home during the shooting. Though physically unharmed, the psychological impact of witnessing such violence cannot be overstated. This case forces us to examine uncomfortable truths about domestic relationships. It asks us to consider how everyday technologies like social media can become catalysts for conflict. It demands that we look beyond simple narratives of victim and perpetrator to understand the complex human dynamics that lead to tragedy. As we explore this case together, we'll examine the evidence, follow the investigation, and trace the legal proceedings that continue to unfold. We'll seek to understand not just what happened, but why, and what it reveals about the intersection of digital life, intimate relationships, and violence. Before we continue with this investigation, if you find these explorations of real-life cases valuable, please take a moment to subscribe to the Truly Criminal Network. Your support allows us to continue bringing you thoroughly researched, thoughtfully presented true crime stories that go beyond sensationalism to find meaning and understanding. Hit that subscribe button and notification bell to join our community of critical thinkers who believe that understanding crime means understanding humanity. Now let's return to the events that led two people down a path toward that fatal February morning. To understand the tragedy that unfolded on Brook Hollow Drive, we must first understand the relationship between Damian Reed and Rashawn Wallace, a union characterized by complex power dynamics and increasing tensions over digital boundaries. Friends and family described the couple's 3-year marriage as passionate but volatile. Damian, who worked in logistics, met Rashawn at a community fundraiser in 2022. Their courtship was brief but intense, with the couple moving in together after just 4 months of dating and marrying within the year. They seemed happy enough at first, recalled a neighbor who wished to remain anonymous. But you'd hear arguments sometimes, loud ones, often about little things that seemed to escalate quickly. These little things frequently centered around issues of control and privacy. Multiple sources confirmed that Damien maintained access to Rashawn's social media accounts, a practice that began early in their relationship. What started as casual password sharing, common among some couples, evolved into something more concerning: regular monitoring and questioning about online interactions. A former colleague of Rashawn noted, she mentioned once that Damien would ask about male names he didn't recognize in her comments or messages. It made her uncomfortable, but she tried to brush it off. Digital privacy experts point out that such behavior represents a significant boundary violation, even when normalized in relationships. Dr. Julia Garrison, a researcher specializing in technology and interpersonal dynamics, explains, when one partner feels entitled to monitor another's communications, it creates an imbalance of power. The monitored partner begins to self-censor, constantly aware they're being watched. This pattern appeared to intensify in the months preceding the shooting. According to coworkers, Rashawn began changing her social media habits, posting less frequently and restricting who could comment on her photos. She also mentioned considering separate accounts that Damien wouldn't know about, though it's unclear if she actually created them. The issue of digital privacy wasn't their only source of friction. Financial pressures mounted as Damien experienced periodic unemployment, placing strain on the household budget. Rashawn's nursing career provided stability, but the income disparity became another source of tension. Text messages recovered during the investigation revealed arguments about spending habits and financial decisions. Neighbors reported hearing disputes with increasing frequency in the weeks before the shooting. One resident recalled an incident in early February where Rashawn briefly left the house late at night following an argument, returning the next morning. No police reports were filed regarding these disputes, but the pattern suggests an escalation of conflict. The presence of a child in the home added another layer of complexity to their relationship. While both expressed love for the child, disagreements about parenting approaches created additional stress. Records indicate that family members had expressed concern about the atmosphere in the home, though no formal interventions were documented. What makes the case particularly notable is the absence of previous gun violence or reports of physical abuse. Both Damien and Rashawn had clean criminal records. The firearm used in the shooting was legally registered to Rashawn, who had purchased it approximately 1 year earlier, citing personal protection as her reason for ownership. Former friends of the couple noted a gradual withdrawal from social activities in the months before the incident. They used to come to neighborhood cookouts, but they stopped showing up, said one resident. We just assumed they were busy with work and family stuff. Rashawn's nursing colleagues observed changes in her behavior as well. She seemed more withdrawn, shared a fellow nurse who worked alongside her. She'd check her phone constantly, like she was worried about something. When we asked if everything was okay, she always said it was fine, just stress from work. The weekend of the shooting had already been tense. According to Rashawn's statement to police, Damien had been particularly irritable following a difficult week at work. Text messages between the couple on Saturday, February 22nd, showed short, clipped responses from both parties, a communication style that experts identify as common during periods of relationship strain. By Sunday morning, February 23rd, the stage was set for confrontation. The household atmosphere was already charged when Damien accessed Rashawn's Facebook account and discovered a recently accepted friend request from a male former classmate, a digital interaction that would trigger the final, fatal argument. No one could have predicted how quickly events would escalate from that discovery to deadly violence. A reminder of how rapidly domestic tensions can transform into tragedy when combined with accessibility to firearms. Sunday, February 23, 2025, began like many others in the Reed Wallace household. Rashawn was scheduled for a late afternoon shift at the hospital. Damien had planned to spend the day watching sports and catching up on household tasks. Their morning routine progressed without incident. Breakfast was made, coffee was consumed, small talk exchanged. Nothing suggested that within hours, their home would become a crime scene. According to Rashawn's statement to investigators, the morning shifted dramatically around 10:45 a.m. Damien, using Rashawn's phone while she showered, noticed a Facebook notification. Upon opening the app, he discovered that Rashawn had recently accepted a friend request from a male former classmate, someone Damien didn't know. When Rashawn emerged from the bathroom, Damien immediately confronted her. "Who is this guy?" he demanded, holding up her phone. "Why are you connecting with him behind my back?" Rashawn explained that the man was simply an old high school acquaintance who had found her profile. She insisted there was nothing suspicious about accepting the request. According to her statement, she attempted to defuse the situation by offering to unfriend the person if it made Damien uncomfortable. But rather than calming tensions, the offer seemed to intensify Damien's suspicions. Text messages recovered from Rashawn's phone show she sent a message to her sister at 11:03 a.m. "D is upset again, fighting about FB, so tired of this." The argument continued to escalate over the next 20 minutes. Neighbors reported hearing raised voices from the residents, though this wasn't unusual enough to prompt concern. Inside, according to Rashawn's account, the verbal confrontation took a darker turn. "He kept saying I was lying, that there must be messages between us," Rashawn told investigators. "He demanded my password to check my private messages, even though he already knew it. When I hesitated, he grabbed my wrist." This physical contact marked a significant escalation. Rashawn stated that she pulled away and moved toward the bedroom, where she kept her legally registered handgun in a lockbox. She retrieved the weapon as Damien followed her, continuing the argument. "I was scared of how angry he was getting," she later explained. "I'd never seen him like that before. I just wanted him to back off and give me space." In the bedroom doorway, Rashawn claims she told Damien to stay back. When he continued advancing toward her, she fired what she described as a warning shot into the wall beside the door at approximately 11:27 a.m. The presence of a bullet hole in the bedroom wall corroborates this part of her account. Forensic analysis confirmed the trajectory was not in Damien's direction, but rather at a 45-degree angle away from where he would have been standing. What happened next remains the central point of contention in the case. According to Rashawn, despite the warning shot, Damien became further enraged and lunged toward her. She fired a second time, this time directly at him, striking him in the abdomen from a distance of approximately 6 feet. The bullet penetrated Damien's liver and major blood vessels, causing rapid and severe blood loss. He collapsed immediately. The child present in the home later told investigators they heard 2 loud bangs, followed by "mommy" screaming. The child remained in another room during the confrontation and shooting. The timeline established by investigators indicates that Rashawn's nursing training immediately took over. Phone records show she called 911 at 11:30 a.m., just minutes after the shooting. The recording captures her distressed voice. "I shot my husband. He was coming at me. He's bleeding badly. Please hurry." The dispatcher instructed Rashawn to apply pressure to the wound while emergency services were dispatched. Rashawn can be heard on the recording counting chest compressions as she attempted CPR. Despite these efforts, Damien's injuries were too severe. When paramedics arrived at 11:41 a.m., they found Rashawn still attempting resuscitation, her hands and clothes covered in blood. Damien Reed was pronounced dead at the scene at 11:52 a.m. Police secured the residence immediately upon arrival. Body camera footage shows officers separating Rashawn from Damien's body as medical personnel confirmed his death. The weapon, a 9mm handgun registered to Rashawn, was found on the bedroom floor, where she had placed it before beginning CPR. Initial police interviews were conducted with Rashawn at the scene, though a full statement would come later at the station. The child was placed temporarily with a relative who arrived shortly after police, sheltered from the aftermath of violence that had transformed their home. By early afternoon, news of the shooting had begun to spread through the neighborhood and on local media. The Jackson Police Department issued a brief statement confirming a fatal domestic incident, but withholding names pending notification of extended family. What began as a dispute over a social media friend request had, in less than an hour, ended a life and forever altered many others. Before we continue with the investigation that followed this tragedy, I'd like to ask you to share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you witnessed how social media and digital privacy issues can create conflict in relationships? What boundaries do you think are important when it comes to partners monitoring each other's online activities? Your insights help build understanding around these complex issues that affect so many modern relationships. Now, let's examine how law enforcement built their case in the aftermath of this shocking incident. The first police units arrived at the Brook Hollow Drive residence at 11:41 a.m., responding to Rashawn's 911 call. Officers James Wilcox and Teresa Gomez secured the scene, separating Rashawn from Damien's body and establishing a perimeter around the property. Their body cameras documented the scene exactly as they found it. Rashawn performing CPR, the handgun placed on the floor nearby, and blood-stained carpeting in the bedroom doorway. Jackson Police Department's Major Crimes Unit took command of the investigation by noon. Detective Marcus Johnson was assigned as lead investigator, bringing 15 years of homicide experience to the case. His first action was to request the department's forensic team to process what was now classified as a potential homicide scene. Our initial approach is always methodical, Detective Johnson explained in his case summary. We document everything before moving anything. In domestic cases with claims of self-defense, preserving the exact positioning of evidence is crucial. Forensic technicians photographed the entire residence, capturing over 300 images before any evidence was collected. They paid particular attention to the precise location of the body, blood pattern analysis on floors and walls, the position of the firearm, the bullet hole in the bedroom wall from the warning shot, the trajectory of both bullets fired. The evidence collection phase yielded several crucial items. The 9mm handgun registered to Rashawn Wallace. 2 spent shell casings, one found in the bedroom and one in the hallway. Bullet fragments extracted from the bedroom wall. Blood samples from multiple locations. Rashawn's and Damien's phones. Clothing worn by both individuals. The forensic team also measured and mapped the home, creating a digital reconstruction of the scene. This allowed investigators to visualize the positioning of both individuals during the confrontation and shooting. Measurements confirmed Rashawn's claim about the distance between them when the fatal shot was fired, approximately 6 feet. Ballistics testing confirmed that both bullets were fired from Rashawn's registered handgun. The angle of the warning shot aligned with her statement that it was deliberately fired away from Damien. Gunshot residue tests showed particles on both Rashawn's hands and on Damien's shirt, consistent with the described distance between them. The autopsy, conducted the following day by Dr. Alan Michaels, confirmed the cause of death as a single gunshot wound to the abdomen. The bullet tore through vital organs and blood vessels, causing massive internal bleeding. Dr. Michaels noted in his report, the victim would have lost consciousness within 60 to 90 seconds of the injury, and death would have followed within minutes, even with immediate medical intervention. Notably, the autopsy revealed bruising on Rashawn's wrist, consistent with her claim that Damien had grabbed her forcefully during the argument. Photographs taken at the police station documented this marking. Digital evidence played a significant role in the investigation. Forensic technicians extracted data from both phones, recovering text messages between the couple in the days preceding the incident, Rashawn's communication with her sister moments before the shooting, the Facebook activity showing the friend request that sparked the argument, search history, showing Rashawn had looked up information about divorce attorneys 3 weeks earlier. Witness interviews proved limited but valuable. The child present in the home was interviewed by a specialized child psychologist using trauma-informed techniques. Though distressed, the child confirmed hearing loud voices followed by 2 gunshots. They described hiding in their room until hearing their mother crying. Neighbors provided context about the relationship but had limited direct knowledge of the events on February 23rd. Several confirmed hearing an argument that morning, but noted that arguments from the residents weren't unusual enough to prompt concern. Investigators interviewed Rashawn Wallace 3 times. Her initial statement was taken at the scene, followed by a detailed interview at the police station later that day, and a follow-up session 2 days later. Her account remained consistent across all 3 interviews, a factor noted in Detective Johnson's assessment. By combining physical evidence, digital forensics, witness accounts, and timeline reconstruction, investigators established a sequence of events that largely aligned with Rashawn's version of events. The evidence confirmed a heated argument had occurred over social media. A warning shot had been fired before the fatal shot. The shooting happened at the distance. Rashawn described she had immediately called 911 and attempted life-saving measures. What remained less clear, and what would become central to the legal proceedings, was whether Damien's actions constituted a threat severe enough to justify lethal force in self-defense. Following the completion of initial evidence collection, Rashawn Wallace was formally arrested and taken to the Hinds County Detention Center at 4:30 p.m. on February 23, 2025. Despite her attempts to render aid and her cooperation with investigators, prosecutors filed second-degree murder charges against her. The charge reflected their initial assessment that while the killing wasn't premeditated, it exceeded the boundaries of justifiable self-defense. District Attorney Melissa Carter explained the charging decision. Our office reviews each case based on evidence, not emotion. The presence of a warning shot, followed by a fatal shot, raises questions about whether deadly force was absolutely necessary at that moment. Rashawn's initial court appearance came 48 hours after her arrest. Dressed in standard detention center attire and visibly distressed, she entered a plea of not guilty. Her court-appointed attorney, James Wilson, immediately signaled their defense strategy. Ms. Wallace acted in legitimate fear for her safety after being physically confronted by her husband. The bond hearing that followed was contentious. Prosecutor Samuel Green argued for a high bond amount, citing the severity of the offense. The defendant had alternatives to lethal force, Green told the court. She could have retreated from the home or called authorities before the situation escalated to violence. Defense attorney Wilson countered by highlighting Rashawn's deep community ties, her career as a healthcare worker, and her lack of criminal history. Most significantly, he introduced the preliminary evidence supporting her self-defense claim. The bruising on her wrist, the warning shot indicating attempted de-escalation, and her immediate efforts to save Damien's life afterward. After considering arguments from both sides, Judge Patricia Montgomery set bail at $50,000, lower than the prosecution requested, but still substantial. With assistance from family members, Rashawn posted bond 3 days after her arrest and was released with conditions: surrender of her passport, electronic monitoring, and a prohibition against possessing firearms. The legal framework for self-defense in Mississippi became central to the case. Attorney Wilson detailed their defense position at a press conference. Mississippi law recognizes the Castle Doctrine, which establishes that individuals have no duty to retreat when facing threats within their own homes. Ms. Wallace was in her bedroom when Mr. Reed continued to advance toward her despite a clear warning shot. However, prosecutors argue that the Castle Doctrine has limitations. Self-defense must be proportional to the threat, D.A. Carter explained. The question for a jury will be whether Mr. Reed posed an imminent danger of death or serious bodily harm that justified the use of deadly force. As the case progressed through preliminary hearings, both sides filed numerous motions. The defense sought to introduce evidence of prior arguments and controlling behavior, while the prosecution moved to limit such testimony as prejudicial. Judge Montgomery ruled that some contextual relationship evidence would be admissible, but limited its scope. Legal experts not directly involved in the case have offered varied perspectives on its complexity. Professor Andrea Jackson, who teaches criminal law at Mississippi State University, observed, "This case sits at an uncomfortable intersection of domestic disputes, self-defense law, and split-second decision-making. The warning shot complicates matters significantly. It shows restraint initially, but also raises questions about whether the threat level changed dramatically in those few seconds. Former prosecutor Thomas Wright pointed to the challenges facing the state. The prosecution must prove beyond reasonable doubt that Wallace didn't reasonably fear for her safety. That's difficult when physical evidence shows escalating tension and when she attempted life-saving measures immediately afterward. Defense attorney Sarah Collins, known for her work on domestic violence cases, noted, "The legal system often struggles with cases where the lines between victim and perpetrator blur. Wallace's immediate call to 911 and attempts at CPR don't align with typical homicide perpetrator behavior." Currently, the case awaits trial, scheduled for October 2025. Both sides continue to prepare their strategies, interviewing expert witnesses and finalizing evidence lists. The prosecution has indicated they may offer a plea agreement for voluntary manslaughter, which would carry a significantly reduced sentence compared to the current second-degree murder charge. Rashawn Wallace remains free on bond, having returned to living with family members. She has been suspended from her nursing position pending the outcome of her case. The court has ordered her to undergo psychological evaluation and to participate in a conflict resolution program while awaiting trial. The case highlights the complex terrain of self-defense law, especially in domestic settings, where arguments can quickly escalate from verbal to physical to potentially lethal. As one legal observer noted, the law asks juries to place themselves in the defendant's position in that exact moment, an extraordinarily difficult task when split seconds separate life from death. The fatal shooting on Brook Hollow Drive extends far beyond the courtroom, creating lasting consequences for families, communities, and the ongoing dialogue about domestic conflict in the digital age. Damian Reed's family continues to grapple with their sudden loss. His mother, speaking briefly to local media, emphasized who her son was beyond the headlines. Damian was a son, a friend, a person with dreams. We want him remembered as more than just this one terrible day. His extended family has established a memorial fund in his name, supporting community youth programs as a way to create meaning from tragedy. For Rashawn Wallace's family, the aftermath brings different but equally profound challenges. While supporting her legal defense, they also navigate the complex emotions of standing by someone accused of taking a life, even in self-defense. "We love our daughter," her father stated. "We're heartbroken for everyone involved in this situation." Most vulnerable is the child who witnessed the events. Child psychologists consulted in the case emphasized the potential for long-term trauma. Dr. Regina Foster, a specialist in childhood trauma, explained, "When children witness violence between caregivers, it fundamentally alters their sense of safety. This child has lost stability in multiple ways, losing one parent to death and another to legal proceedings." The court appointed a guardian ad litem to represent the child's interests, recommending ongoing therapy and careful consideration of custody arrangements. Family court proceedings run parallel to the criminal case, prioritizing the child's emotional welfare above all other concerns. The Jackson community's response has been multifaceted. Some residents organized a neighborhood watch program, while others focused on creating support systems for families experiencing relationship distress. Local faith leaders held community discussions addressing conflict resolution and the importance of recognizing relationship dysfunction before it escalates. This case raises broader questions about how modern relationships navigate digital boundaries. Social media creates new frontiers for jealousy, surveillance, and control, turning platforms designed for connection into potential catalysts for conflict. What we're seeing more frequently is social media becoming both a tool for monitoring partners and a flashpoint for confrontation, explains Dr. Kevin Barnes, who studies digital media's impact on relationships. Many couples lack clear boundaries around online privacy, creating tension that can escalate quickly. Domestic violence prevention advocates highlight how this case demonstrates how quickly conflicts can turn deadly when firearms are accessible. The presence of a gun transforms a heated argument into a potentially lethal situation within seconds, notes Tanya Wilson, director of a family safety center. This case illustrates how crucial safety planning can be for anyone in a volatile relationship. Resources exist for those experiencing relationship control or conflict before it reaches a crisis point. Confidential hotlines provide guidance and support. Community centers offer conflict resolution training. Legal aid services can assist with protective orders. Counseling services specialize in relationship dynamics. Digital safety planning helps establish online boundaries. The legal outcome of Rashawn Wallace's case remains uncertain, but its legacy is already developing through awareness and prevention efforts. Local schools have incorporated digital citizenship and healthy relationship education into their curriculum. Community forums discuss where personal privacy begins and ends in intimate relationships. Perhaps the most profound lesson from this tragedy is how ordinary moments, checking social media, accepting a friend request, having an argument, can transform into life-altering events in the presence of escalating emotions and accessible weapons. As we conclude our examination of this case, we're left with difficult questions about self-defense, digital privacy, relationship dynamics, and justice. There are no simple answers, only a reminder that understanding the complexities of human behavior requires looking beyond headlines to the intricate realities of lives in conflict. If you found value in this exploration of a tragic case with important societal implications, please consider supporting our work by subscribing to the Truly Criminal Network. Your subscription enables us to continue providing nuanced, thoughtful coverage of cases that matter. Hit the like button if you appreciated our approach to this sensitive topic, share with others who might benefit from this discussion, and activate notifications to stay informed about our upcoming investigations. Most importantly, join the conversation in the comments below. Your perspectives help build understanding around these complex issues that affect so many lives. Thank you for your thoughtful engagement with difficult but important stories.